On an autumn afternoon in Chicago, Rachel Sanders was preparing dinner in the kitchen while gazing out at the beautiful fall foliage spread outside her window. She felt joy in cooking homemade meals for her family. These moments spent with her husband Michael, her mother Barbara, and her sister Emily after 13 years of marriage were more precious to Rachel than anything else. "Rachel, is there anything I can help with?" She turned around to see her husband Michael standing there with a gentle smile. He was a skilled financial advisor working at an investment firm, always well-dressed and maintaining a gentlemanly attitude toward his wife. Rachel was deeply grateful for his thoughtfulness. "I'm fine, it'll be ready soon." "Welcome home, honey." Michael placed his hand on his wife's shoulder and gave her a light kiss on the forehead. "You're always perfect. I'm truly a lucky man." Rachel's cheeks flushed slightly. Even after all these years of marriage, Michael's words still warmed her heart. Their home was in a quiet suburban residential area, purchased with the inheritance Rachel had received from her late father. Her father had been a successful businessman who left her more than enough wealth. The sound of the front door opening echoed through the house, followed by a cheerful voice. "I'm home." Her sister Emily had returned from work. Emily was a teacher at the local elementary school and always entertained them with delightful stories about her students. Rachel loved her dearly, and Emily cherished her sister in return. The bond of their blood-related family was an irreplaceable treasure to Rachel. "Welcome home, Emily. How was your day?" Today, Jamie from 3rd grade was able to recite all his multiplication tables for the first time. Emily spoke excitedly. That boy had been struggling with math, but he really worked hard. Rachel felt warm inside as she listened to her sister's story. Emily's genuine love for children made her proud as an older sister. From the living room came the sound of her mother Barbara watching television. Barbara had been living with Rachel's family since losing her husband 5 years ago. Outwardly, Barbara was an ideal mother who treated her daughters with affection. She would especially tell Rachel, "You are my pride and joy." "Mom, dinner is ready," Rachel called toward the living room. Barbara turned around with a smile. "Thank you, Rachel. You always put us first. You're such a good girl." The time when all 4 family members gathered around the dining table was the happiest moment of Rachel's day. Michael would tell amusing stories about work, Emily would laugh while sharing school events, and Barbara would respond to her daughter's stories and occasionally share memories from the past. "Next Saturday is Mom's birthday," Rachel said to her mother. "Should we do something special this year?"
Do you know some people earn over $10,000 a month just by posting Reddit stories on YouTube? No face, no voice, just a laptop. I do it too. Link below if you're curious.
Barbara's eyes lit up. "I don't need anything special. Just celebrating with the whole family is enough. But if you wouldn't mind, I'd love to have your home cooking." "Of course. I'll make your favorite roast beef and that special soup." Rachel felt her heart warm thinking about seeing her mother's delighted face. For her, who had been taken in as an adopted child, Barbara was more than a real mother. Even without blood ties, she believed that family bonds formed through love were stronger than anything. After dinner, Michael said he had more work to do and went to his study. Emily headed to her room to prepare for the next day's classes, and Barbara decided to watch her favorite drama in the living room. Rachel remained alone in the kitchen, washing dishes while reflecting on the happy moments of the day. It was already getting dark outside, but the house was wrapped in warm light. Rachel once again realized how blessed she was. A loving husband, a kind mother, a sweet sister, and sufficient wealth inherited from her late father. She had everything she could want. Barbara's birthday arrived on a beautiful, clear autumn Saturday. Rachel had been in the kitchen since early morning, preparing her mother's favorite roast beef. As she put the herb-crusted meat into the oven, her heart was full with the desire to make this special day perfect. "Smells wonderful." Michael appeared in the kitchen in his pajamas and turned on the coffee maker. "Mom will surely be delighted." "Yes, I've worked especially hard this year. I'm also planning to make that special soup." Rachel smiled as she turned around. "That creamy mushroom soup Mom used to make for us. Even though she taught me the recipe, I can never quite match her flavor." Michael gently massaged his wife's shoulders. "Your cooking is delicious. Mom thinks so too." Around 3 in the afternoon, Emily arrived carrying armfuls of flowers and gift packages, wearing her usual bright smile. "It smells amazing." Emily peered into the kitchen with admiration. "Is there anything I can help with?" "Thank you, but it's almost all finished. I just need to complete the soup." Rachel was simmering mushroom soup in a large pot. She was carefully seasoning the rich cream-based soup with fresh mushrooms and herbs. Barbara especially loved this soup, and it was something she had long wanted to pass down to Rachel since she got married, saying, "Someday I want to share this recipe with you." At 6 in the evening, the 4 family members gathered around the dining table. Beautiful linen cloth covered the table, and the dishes Rachel had lovingly prepared were arranged on it. The roast beef was perfectly cooked, and the accompanying vegetables were colorfully vibrant. In the center, the special mushroom soup steamed in a large bowl. "Oh Rachel, this is truly wonderful," Barbara said with sparkling eyes. "You always take such good care of me. Thank you so much." Rachel felt her heart warm seeing her mother's joy. "Thanks to being raised by you, Mom, I am who I am today. This is only natural." Michael poured wine while Emily lit the candles. The whole family toasted to celebrate Barbara's birthday, and a pleasant dinner began. "This roast beef is really delicious," Barbara said with satisfaction. "But what I'm most looking forward to is that soup. It reminds me of the flavor my mother used to make." Rachel stood up and ladled the warm soup into everyone's bowls. She gave Barbara an especially generous portion and served herself last. "Here's the special soup worthy of Mom's special day," Rachel said proudly. Barbara took her first spoonful and savored it deeply. "Wonderful, Rachel. This really is close to my mother's flavor. What secret ingredient did you use?" "It's a secret," Rachel smiled playfully. "But I think the most important ingredient is love." The whole family continued their enjoyable conversation while tasting the soup. Michael shared funny episodes from work, Emily told charming stories about her school students, Barbara shared old memories, and Rachel listened to everyone's stories while savoring her happiness. However, as the meal was nearing its end, Rachel began to feel something strange. At first it was like mild dizziness, but it gradually grew stronger. Her eyelids became heavy, and her vision began to blur. "I must be a little tired," Rachel shook her head lightly, trying to shake off the sensation. "Are you okay?" Emily asked with concern. "Yes, I probably just worked too hard today. But since it's Mom's birthday, I want to enjoy it until the end." Barbara was carefully observing her daughter's condition. "Rachel, you've really done enough. That's plenty." Rachel tried to stand up to clear the dishes, but she felt unsteady on her feet. Michael quickly stood up to support his wife. "You rest. I'll clean up." "But there's still dessert." "Dessert can wait until another time," Barbara said gently. "Your health is more important." Rachel lay down on the sofa, but her drowsiness was becoming abnormally strong. As her consciousness became hazy, she felt her family's voices sounding as if they were coming from far away. At that moment, Barbara's cell phone rang. "Hello?" Barbara's voice suddenly filled with tension. "What?" "Emily. In the hospital." Rachel heard her mother's panicked voice through her drowsiness. Something seemed to have happened. "Rachel, this is terrible." There was a call saying Emily collapsed at the hospital. Rachel tried desperately to maintain consciousness, but her head was foggy. "Emily. But Emily is right here." "No, it's a different Emily." "Your friend." Barbara's voice was agitated. "We need to go to the hospital right away." Rachel was confused. Was it about her friend Emily? But it was strange that Barbara knew that friend's name. However, she couldn't think clearly now. "We have to go." Rachel tried to stand up unsteadily. Michael looked at his wife with concern. "You can't drive in your condition." "I'll drive." "But you've been drinking wine too, haven't you?" "It's okay, just a little." Michael picked up the car keys. "Let's have Mom come with us too." Rachel tried to protest, but couldn't form words properly due to drowsiness and dizziness. Supported by Barbara and Michael, she sat in the passenger seat. With her consciousness unclear, she felt something was wrong but couldn't understand what it was. As the car started moving, Rachel's consciousness faded even further. When consciousness returned, Rachel had a dull pain echoing in her head. The regular beeping of medical equipment and the smell of disinfectant stimulated her senses. She could only remember in fragments where she was and why she was there. She tried to open her eyes, but her eyelids felt as heavy as lead. She could feel tubes connected throughout her body, and there was the sensation of what seemed to be a ventilator in the back of her throat. Rachel was confused but instinctively felt something was wrong. Then she heard the quiet sound of the hospital room door opening. Multiple footsteps were audible, and the sound of chairs being pulled echoed beside the bed. Rachel felt the urge to open her eyes, but somehow had a premonition that she shouldn't, so she continued to keep them closed. "What did the doctor say?" A low male voice was heard. It was Michael's voice. "It'll take a little more time before she regains consciousness," a female voice answered. It was Barbara. "But fortunately, there's no danger to her life." Rachel was about to feel relieved, but the next words she heard made her blood run cold. "Then things are proceeding according to plan." Michael's voice contained satisfaction rather than relief. "Plan?" Rachel's heart began beating rapidly. The monitor sound quickened slightly, but fortunately the two didn't seem to notice. "Yes, perfectly," Barbara laughed. "That girl is so dense, she didn't notice at all. She drank that soup so happily." "Soup?" Rachel's memory gradually returned. Barbara's birthday, the special mushroom soup, and that abnormal drowsiness. Was the amount of sleeping pills okay? Michael's worried voice. "Just as calculated. I adjusted it so she'd lose consciousness 30 minutes after eating, during the drive. By the time you rear-ended from behind, Rachel would have been completely unconscious, right?" Rachel desperately suppressed her body from trembling with fear. Her own mother and husband had tried to kill her. Yes, thanks to the airbag, she escaped with minor injuries. But making it look like she hit her head hard was difficult, Michael sighed. "But now you'll pay off my $5 million debt, right, mother-in-law?" $5 million debt. Rachel was shocked by her husband's hidden secret. "Of course," Barbara's voice rang coldly. "When Rachel dies, all the inheritance becomes mine." And it would be natural to leave it to Emily, my real daughter. Real daughter? Rachel's world crumbled. Rachel is adopted, so there's no blood connection, Barbara continued. My husband took pity on that child and brought her in, but honestly, she was a nuisance. But when that child's father died and left a huge inheritance, I thought it was a gift from God. But mother-in-law, Emily doesn't know anything, right? Of course not. That child truly adores Rachel. But once I explain everything, she'll understand. After all, it's her real mother saying so. Rachel fought back tears. The family she had loved with all her heart had actually been targeting her life. But is it really okay? Michael's voice held anxiety. The police investigation. Don't worry. It's being processed as a traffic accident. You're the poor husband who fell asleep at the wheel, and I'm the mother grieving the loss of her beloved daughter. Perfect acting, don't you think? Barbara's cruel laughter echoed in the hospital room. Rachel's heart froze learning the true nature of the person she had thought was her mother. Still, I'm glad Rachel really died, Barbara sighed with relief. If she had survived, it would have been troublesome. That's right. But now I can pay off my debt, and mother-in-law can give the inheritance to Emily as she wished. Everyone gets a happy ending. Their conversation continued, but Rachel's head was confused with anger and sadness. The mother she thought loved her had actually resented her. Michael, whom she thought was a kind husband, had been using her for his debts. By the way, Michael, Barbara's voice was heard again. Your gambling debt is really $5 million. Yes, from casinos and sports betting, the collection was terrible. I was at my limit, Michael's voice trembled. If mother-in-law hadn't proposed this plan, I might have been killed. Right. But now both our problems are solved, Barbara said with satisfaction. Rachel's inheritance is about $20 million. Even using $5 million for your debt repayment, there's still plenty left. Rachel felt despair. Her life, her love, her trust, everything had been nothing but monetary calculations. But was Rachel really completely unaware? Michael muttered anxiously. She was completely fooled, Barbara laughed contemptuously. That girl is such a good-natured person, she doesn't know how to suspect anyone. She drank down the birthday soup without ever dreaming sleeping pills were in it. Good. If she had found out. Don't worry. That child died still thinking of us as family until the end. In a way, it was a happy death, wasn't it? Barbara's cruel words made Rachel's body almost shake with anger. However, she still had to continue pretending to be dead. She knew the truth and understood that her life was truly in danger. Footsteps could be heard from the hallway. A nurse seemed to be coming for rounds. Someone's coming, Barbara said in a low voice. Let's talk again later. I understand. But mother-in-law, thank you so much. Now I can start a new life. Thank you too, Michael. Without you, this plan wouldn't have succeeded. The two sets of footsteps moved away, and the hospital room door quietly closed. Rachel was alone and could finally shed tears. As Rachel was alone shedding tears, light footsteps could be heard from the hallway. A nurse was entering the room for regular rounds. Mrs. Montgomery, how are you feeling? A gentle female voice echoed. Rachel continued regular breathing with her eyes closed. The nurse checked the floor with practiced hands and reviewed the monitor readings. The heart rate is slightly elevated, the nurse murmured. But it might be a sign of regaining consciousness. Where are the family members? Rachel answered in her heart, "My family are the people who tried to kill me." When the nurse left the room, silence returned again. Rachel began forming a plan in her head. Should she continue pretending to be dead, or should she reveal the truth? However, her decision was made by the footsteps she heard next. Barbara and Michael had returned. Did the nurse say anything? Michael's voice. No particular change, Barbara answered. But she might regain consciousness soon. If she wakes up. Don't worry. Since we've made it seem like she hit her head hard, we can just say she has no memory. Besides, even if she remembers something, if we deny it, who would believe her? Barbara's cold calculation made Rachel firm in her final resolve. She couldn't remain silent. That's an interesting story, Mom. Rachel slowly opened her eyes. Barbara and Michael looked at her with expressions as if struck by lightning. Rachel. Michael jumped up in panic. You're awake. Are you okay? You hit your head hard. I heard everything, Michael. Rachel's voice was quiet but hard as steel. About the $5 million debt, the sleeping pills, the planned accident, everything. Barbara's face turned pale. Rachel, what are you saying? The accident injured your head. Stop lying. Rachel sat up in bed. That I was in the way as an adopted child, that you wanted to give the inheritance to Emily because she's your real daughter, that you resented me, I heard it all. Michael and Barbara looked at each other. They understood there was no escape. But there's no proof, is there? Barbara said defiantly. Whatever you say, we'll deny it. You're having hallucinations from your head injury. Rachel smiled. That smile no longer held her former gentleness. Actually, Mom, I'm not as foolish as you think. Rachel took out a small recorder from her hospital gown pocket. What's that? Michael asked in a trembling voice. A recording of your conversation. The confession of attempted murder using sleeping pills, conspiracy for debt, it's all recorded. The color drained from Barbara and Michael's faces. Moreover, Rachel continued, I actually didn't drink that soup. That's impossible. Barbara screamed. I saw you drink it. I pretended to drink, but I didn't actually swallow it. During the meal, I spit it out into my napkin. Rachel's voice had a note of triumph. When you left the kitchen, I checked the soup's taste. It had an unusual bitter taste, so I knew something was in it. Michael collapsed into his chair. So you were acting the whole time? That's right. To confirm your plan, I pretended to be asleep. And when you put me in the car, I secretly contacted my close friend Dr. Johnson. He also contacted the police. The hospital room door opened, and 2 police officers entered. Behind them followed Dr. Johnson, Rachel's close friend and physician. Barbara Montgomery and Michael Sanders, you are under arrest on charges of attempted murder and conspiracy. One of the officers took out handcuffs. Wait! Barbara screamed. This is a misunderstanding. Rachel is lying. Unfortunately, everything has been recorded. Dr. Johnson handed the recorder to the police officer. Rachel contacted me last night when she felt something was wrong during the meal. We cooperated with the police to set this trap. Michael hung his head in resignation. I was driven to desperation by debt. Save your excuses for court, the officer handcuffed Michael. Barbara resisted until the end. Rachel, I'm your mother. Even without blood ties, I raised you. Rachel answered calmly, yes, you did raise me. But you didn't love me. And you tried to kill me. That can never be forgiven. But Emily doesn't know anything. Don't leave that child alone. Don't worry about Emily. I'll tell her the truth. She's done nothing wrong. Rachel's voice regained some gentleness. But you must take responsibility for your actions. As the officers led Barbara and Michael away, Rachel watched the scene with complex feelings. Anger and sadness mixed with a strange sense of liberation. Dr. Johnson approached. Rachel, you were truly brave. But are you okay? The psychological shock must be considerable. I need time, Rachel answered honestly. But I'm glad the truth came out. The thought of continuing to be deceived like that makes me shudder. I'll contact Emily. She'll be greatly shocked too. Thank you, John. But this is something I should talk about directly. Emily did nothing wrong. I want to teach her what real family love is. Outside the window, dawn was breaking. For Rachel, this was the beginning of a new life. A life that would truly shine among bonds with people filled with truth and love, free from false family affection. 6 months later, Rachel sat in the courtroom gallery listening to the verdict. Michael received a 12-year prison sentence for attempted fraud and attempted murder. His massive gambling debts were processed through bankruptcy, freeing him from days of fearing collectors, but the price was far too high. Barbara received a 15-year sentence as the mastermind of attempted murder and premeditated crime. In court, she repeated excuses about doing it for her adopted daughter, until the end, but the judge handed down a harsh verdict, calling it an extremely malicious crime that betrayed family love and trust regardless of blood relations. When Emily learned the truth about the incident, she cried for 3 days straight. The fact that her own mother had tried to kill her sister completely overturned her world. However, she came to visit Rachel and tearfully apologized. Sister, I didn't know anything. If I had noticed. Rachel gently embraced Emily. You did nothing wrong. You are my precious sister. That doesn't change whether we share blood or not. Emily visited Barbara only once but completely cut ties after that. My mother was someone who couldn't love my sister. I cannot be family with such a person, her words deeply moved Rachel. Rachel used part of her father's inheritance to start a new business. Together with trustworthy companions, she established a foundation to support people who were truly in need. She focused particularly on supporting children abandoned by their families and women who had been victims of fraud. Her close friend Dr. Johnson joined as a board member of the foundation, supporting Rachel's new life. He was a true friend who, when he received Rachel's emergency call that night, immediately contacted the police without hesitation. You taught me, Rachel, Johnson said one day. True family isn't connected by blood, but by people bonded through heart connections. Emily continued teaching while volunteering at Rachel's foundation on weekends. The two became connected by a much deeper bond than before. The process of them learning together what true love was, having been raised in false family affection, became irreplaceable time for both of them. Rachel sometimes remembered that terrifying night. However, it wasn't with regret or resentment, but to confirm her own strength. She had been able to maintain composure even in desperate circumstances and had the courage to reveal the truth. That experience made her a stronger, wiser woman. 1 year later in autumn, Rachel purchased a new home. It wasn't the previous mansion, but a warm, medium-sized house. She prepared a room where Emily could stay on weekends. They planted flowers together in the garden, creating a space filled with true family love. Sister, we can be happy, can't we? Emily asked one day. Rachel held her sister's hand and smiled. Of course. We have true love. With that, we can overcome any difficulty. Around the dinner table now were trustworthy friends and Emily. Dr. Johnson, Foundation colleagues, parents of Emily's students and their children. Even without blood ties, there was a true family connected by heart. Rachel sometimes thought that if that incident hadn't happened, she might have lived her entire life in false love. Ironically, thanks to the people who tried to kill her, she was able to find true happiness. The sunset was setting outside the window. Rachel's new life was definitely shining in bonds with people filled with truth and love, having abandoned false family affection.